Hi, everybody. I am really excited to close out our programming today with our keynote fireside chat. If I could moderate all of these panels, I would, but I'm glad I get to do this one. So this is really fun. So this talk, we did the same subject year one. So just like you heard from Sherry Hu, who's here year one, this topic, the Modern Music Company, was one that we did year one, looking at innovative new companies working at the intersection of music and tech and artist development and marketing and all kinds of interesting spaces that don't fall into the traditional, like, oh, this is clearly a management company or this is clearly a label. It was looking at all the different companies that kind of fall along the wide spectrum that is the music industry, basically. And so I'm really excited to get to bring this panel back. And I am bringing two incredible executives to Keynote to talk all about what the modern music company looks like and how it helps artists. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guests. Hi, Jen. Hi, Martha.
Hi.
Um, I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself, but I will say Jenn Hurst is the Senior Vice President at Madden, and Martha Earls is the founder and manager of Neon Coast. So let's start with Martha. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Martha Earls, and as Christine said, I'm the owner of a company called Neon Coast, which is based in Nashville, Tennessee. We are foundationally a management company, but do so much more than that, obviously, in this modern music era. So I try to have, a unique collection of clients. We also have a production company. We have a master's ownership side. So we can get into all of that stuff. But yes, wonderful and happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Jen, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here too. My name is Jenn Hurst, and I'm the SVP of MDDN, which is a music management company founded by Benji and Joel Madden of Good Charlotte. I'm based in the LA office. We also have an office in Nashville. The guys sort of had built the company as a solution to the money problems that they had faced coming up in the industry at a young age. And I manage artists and producers such as Ava Max, Carly Hansen, Slush Puppy. I oversee our independent label that we run through the Orchard. And yeah, just like help keep the whole company running.
Wonderful. Just always to add, because you said it, the Orchard is a sponsor for Measured Music this year. So always good to hear it mentioned. Okay, fantastic. So let's dive right in. So over the past years, there's been a shift to companies that manage more for artists beyond just like the traditional management company or label. Why do you think the shift has happened? And then like, why is it beneficial to artists? I think Jen, you just started talking about it a bit, talking about, the guy's experience. So talk a bit more about that. Why do we need companies like this?
Well, I mean, the guy's experience is nothing, sadly, like out of the ordinary. They came up, and now it's been over 20 years. And I think that sort of like everything that you could imagine going wrong with an up and coming like band or artist went wrong. It was like poor management, bad business management, like stealing their money, sort of just like one day clocking in and being like, where is everything? Like, where, it's like a lot of bad things can happen with the team. The label can push you in a certain direction that isn't authentic. And it's like sometimes really easy for young artists to like be, when they're vulnerable, like to be persuaded. And so I think that like after going through all of that, they were like, we want to build a company that's like a safe haven for artists that are coming up to never have to deal with that. It's like we sort of like to say that we build like a protection bubble around the artists that we work with. And it's like you just continue to like have your craft and build your world, and we're going to protect you from like all of the outside noise. And we have our team, we have our internal like family, and it's full transparency with everything. Like we give them all of the information together, we discuss it together, we figure out what the best next steps are and like the direction that we want to go in, and we do it like without labels pushing us, without people pressuring like about the money and the deals and that. It's like all of that stuff's gonna come. The most important thing is just making sure that like the artistry and the creative and all of that stays authentic and stays true to the artist, and like no other noise is deterring from it, and we just like keep pushing up.
Isn't that amazing to hear? That's the dream, right? To be able to do it the way you want to be able to do it. Speaking of doing it the way you want to, Martha, you started your company. So why do you see that there's a need for this?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think about like, I was thinking when you were talking about just how companies are multifaceted and doing various things. And a lot of it comes out of necessity that's created within the music business for like Jenn was saying, for the benefit of the artist. Because the system isn't set up for the benefit of the artist traditionally. But for me, I was managing a couple clients, and I just had the opportunity to go on my own and just kind of, I always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I started a publishing company with a colleague, which kind of got me out of the corporate structure and then into starting my own thing. And so in 2015, I started a management company, and my artists were a little bit non-traditional. I mean, I had, a couple clients, then I had obviously my marquee clients, Kane Brown, who's now a stadium touring act. But at the time, he was a biracial country singer, and he needed just somebody around him that just refused to believe like all of these boundaries and fences that the industry tends to put around artists, right? Because it's more convenient just to throw somebody in a box and label them a certain thing, especially 10 years ago. And so I think for me, that is part of the excitement of having your own company or being in an independent space as well. You can do things that maybe other people aren't given the freedom to do necessarily. And I like those things that are sort of culturally push culture a little bit and I don't know, widen the tent a little bit. So that's one of the benefits of being on your own, is you don't have anybody telling you, no, this isn't how we've done it, because it doesn't matter how this establishment has done it.
Yes, I totally feel that. Okay, so speaking of that, then let's talk about what parts of the industry do you embrace, right? And then what parts are you actively kind of rebelling against, basically? You've spent your time working in the industry before you started your own thing. Jen, before you got to Maddie, you were working in the industry. So what is it that you're like, cool, we have to do these fundamentals? And what things do you just toss away? Martha, why don't you continue with your line of thought there?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you can't say that the whole system is wrong or the whole system is right. Like there are things fundamentally that you have to do. At the end of the day, the artist has to create great music that connects with people. That's the thing. Now, how you connect with people has changed over the years. It's gone from radio and television to this, and figuring out how to reach people, but you still won't reach them if the music isn't compelling. And it's, and that's the fundamental of it all. And that's also a very Nashville thing to say too, because we're a songwriter. The song is first, town. That's sort of like the credo of Nashville. It begins with the song or whatever. So I think quality music is first. And then I think artist authenticity is critical as well, because it does happen to artists, like Jenn was saying, where they get into the system and somebody assumes that they know who the artist is more than the artist knows. And that's fundamentally impossible. However, it's so easy to get pushed and persuaded. And so many artists just want to please people, and they want to have success, and they don't want to lose their deal, and they want to be told they're doing a good job. And so I think it's also something we always talk about with all our clients is this who they are? Like if we're going to do something, we say, well, does this serve who they are? And if it doesn't, no matter how great it may seem, then you just have to say no, and I'm very gut driven, I think you're either your head or your heart or your gut. I'm gut driven, and you can feel when something's off. And I've tried to and it's never ever played out well. So you also just, I think, have to stay true to who is the artist. Are they putting out great music? And how do you reach the fans? And also, I think, have respect for the fans, because I think sometimes in the traditional label, it was the label knew better than the fans. That's not true. At the end of the day, the fan is our customer. We have to honor them. So I think if you bear those things in mind, that's how you can have success.
Absolutely. We our marketing panel, we were also just talking about fans and how to reward fans for being fans and recognizing how important they are. This is a running theme that we wholly embrace here. Jenn, what about you? Like, let's talk about what's traditional that you keep in the company, and what have you tossed away?
Well, I think that what's traditional, as far as like how we are still building our artists' careers from like back in the day too, is like tour. I mean, it ties into the fans being the most important. It's like still for us, touring is like a number one most pivotal way of like growing the audiences. And it's like, I know with streaming and technology and now AI and yeah, like the TikTok, the influencer campaigns, like all these newer ways of marketing that like continue to pop up, or like the distribution. I think like another traditional distribution thing that we're continuing to embrace is like physicals. We always like to have a vinyl release with the albums. And that's like another, going back to super serving the fans. I think fans still want to be able to, like, with the merch and everything else, have physical pieces of music and the artwork and be able to listen to it on a record player. It's like nothing really beats that. So I would say like, yeah, touring and vinyl are like traditional aspects of the industry that like I definitely still embrace.
I have to say something funny about the vinyl. I have two daughters, they're 11 and 13, and we put a vinyl on. They had never seen it, and they were like, "This technology is incredible." That's what they said.
They're so cute. I know, it's crazy because it's like,
it is crazy.
The old school stuff like does trip out the kids because they haven't experienced it.
Yes. They don't get it. They're like, how does that needle on that thing make sound? Like it was crazy.
It's so funny.
Oh, I love that. That also probably makes everyone here feel a million years old. So great. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I love that. Oh, okay, cool. So we're talking about vinyl. We're talking about touring. Yeah, we're talking about, and you have to have the good songs. So, all of these things are happening within your companies, right? So, like, there's management, there's the records, there's publishing. How do you actually balance all these different functions to actually make it all work while still keeping focus on the artist? How do you not lose sight with all of this in your purview, basically? Jenn, why don't you continue?
I like don't know if this is just me, but I feel like Martha will probably agree. It's like I love to be like in control of my projects and with the artists too. And so it's like, especially with the developing ones also, it's like we started doing MDDN records through the Orchard as a way to be able to like develop our younger, more baby acts who we were managing. And it was kind of just like, versus finding a distribution partner, we know, like, we see the vision, like we have a roadmap. Let's just keep it close and keep it together and just like drive it home. And for that, it's like we don't want all these cooks in the kitchen. So it's like, let's just like do it through the Orchard under MDDN Records. It's us, like the same team as the management, as the label and the publishing, because it all ties in together. It's like when you're creating this music too, for the publishing side, it's like a lot of that is the A&R, and it's like if you don't have an artist who's like producing and writing all of their music themselves, it's like, who's the best writer for them to go in with? Who's the best producer for them to go in with? And like, you really know that better than anyone else too. And so I think that like what we found for developing for sure, and oftentimes also with like some of the major acts, is like, let's just keep it right, keep it tight, keep it close, and like do everything ourselves. Because like at a certain point after doing this for so long, like you learn how to do all of these things. And rather than like taking the time to pass along the message to this person, to this person, to that person, and then it can get lost in translation and all this, like, let's just do it ourselves. And I don't know if that's like a control freak thing or what it is, but like we found it to be the best way to do it.
No, I love that. I don't think, I mean, it might be a control freak thing, but I'm like, oh, I match this energy totally. So I get it. I think what's really interesting is as you progress in your career in the music industry, you go from being a specialist to a generalist. And oftentimes you have to go from when you become a generalist, you have to move out of the traditional spaces into new spaces in order to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Because having your hands in so many pots, if you're in a more traditional environment, they're going to say, oh, that's not your lane. That's not your lane. But it's like, if you know the artist best, then it's your lane, regardless of whether or not it's publishing or recording or live or merch or whatever it might be, basically. Martha, please let us know how you feel about
what you say is so good. And honestly, what your lane is your artist. You know, that's the lane. The lane isn't to your point, publishing or marketing or whatever. Your lane is the artist in their career. And I think when you do, like Jenn said, where you have this holistic view of the artist and the project, everything ties in together. When you have people doing things in different places, sometimes it can become like downright contradictory, because maybe what the touring and the promoter might want to accomplish is not necessarily in line with what the record company may want to accomplish. And I think when you do keep like you just make sure you kind of almost build like a dome around it all, everything then works together. And then you actually have like success where the sum is greater than the parts, you know? And we had that, like I had that instance recently. I was talking about this before the call. I just got back from London. We did this big, and I rallied the label around it. I rallied the promoter around it, the agency around it. So we had, my artist was doing album promo from an album he just released. We lined up the tour announcement and on sale to line up with the F1 event. We had our publicist over there who was setting up certain media and interviews, and it was all working together. Whereas I feel like sometimes these different companies work against one another. And I think as the manager, you sometimes have to be like the center of all of that and bring all of, because everybody has something to contribute. They want to be in these jobs if they were incompetent, right? Everybody has something to contribute. It's figuring out how do you get everybody to work together to get to an end goal that's bigger than their individual goals. That's the key. And if you can figure that out, I do think that's when you can have great success.
Absolutely agree there. I don't think it's possible without, well, it's not possible without the manager, but it's not possible without people that care, that really care about every part of it, because so often you hear basically the equivalent of someone saying, oh, that's not my problem. So the other part of staying in your lane is like, oh, well, I'm the promoter, so I don't really care how the record's doing, or so I don't care about this. And it's like, but how do you, like, it behooves you for the record to do well, you know? Like things like that, basically.
And sometimes you have to show them that, you know, like sometimes you have to explain, hey, this is why this is beneficial. Like I think the ultimate example, right? I think about like the biggest song of last year was Taylor Swift's Cruel Summer, which was from an album that was the Lover album, which was years old, but it became big because of the Eras tour. So now like the music in the single of an album that's 5 years old is being benefited by a current tour, you know, like that's where you have to, I can't see that driving nuts, kind of like bypass them and move on to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Completely agree there. Okay, I think it leads us to a really good next question because we've started talking a bit about stats. So let's talk a bit about data. So what is the role of data in your day-to-day work? You talk about your head, your heart, your gut, but how do you go about making decisions? Are they data-driven? Are they data-influenced? Talk to me about how that works for you guys. Martha, why don't you continue?
I would say that it definitely helps for tracking down where your fans are, and figuring out where you need to go, right? Because you can look at your data on wherever, Spotify, social media, wherever it is, and you can say, wow, we do have a lot of fans in Australia. Is it worth it to go to Australia? Because it's like takes forever to get there. It's a big undertaking. It's costly. But then you realize how many fans you have, and that data can help you really kind of branch out from what you may be traditionally doing. So I would say for that, it's really beneficial. I don't think you can be you can't let the data rule the creative. I don't think that's ever good. Like you would never want to go to an artist and say, oh, your biggest streaming song was a mid-tempo ballad about your wife. Go write another mid-tempo ballad about your wife. That feels like a bad idea. But that happens. Those conversations happen. That's when the data is not being helpful and you're honestly utilizing it in the wrong way. So I like to use it to find fans, but not to dictate any kind of creative decisions.
Absolutely, it makes total sense. I always joke people like, "Oh, Christine, can you use data to predict a hit song?" I always say, even if I could, the artist would not listen to me. So we might as well save us all the trouble here. Jenn, what about you? What's the role of data in your work?
Yeah, I think that I definitely agree with everything that Martha was saying too. It's like it's always good to look. Like I'd be lying if I say like I don't get to the office every day and like check the Spotify for artists, like check chart metric, like just see what's going on in all of their worlds, because like then sometimes there's this random spike on like YouTube Reels or like something. It's like, it's hard with all these platforms these days. You're trying to push out content. It's like we want it on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, on this, on that, and Facebook and Insta. It's like Twitter. It's all of the things, and it's not only hard to like keep up with the posts, but then it's also hard to keep up with like where things are reacting. And if you're not checking every day, you could miss something where there's potentially a spike. And then it's like, okay, what do we do? Like, is there a spend now here on this where we boost it and like really blow it up, or, but I think also with like releases on the DSPs, it's like sometimes too, like you could come out with a new release, it gets on all the playlists that you wanted, like knock on wood otherwise, which I also don't even think is like a big deal anymore, but like the artists care, like they
Right.
want to have the good spots on the playlist and all of those things. But it's like if a release comes out and it's just like tracking evenly on par with like the other releases in the past, and it's not like this huge thing, I'm never like losing the seam. I'm still like whatever, like if we didn't do a video with the release, like let's still do the video, like let's still do the plan, the marketing, and this and that, because it's like so much, like you said with Cruel Summer, it's like so much can happen beyond the first week, like the first months, the first year. Sometimes you just never know when like the most randomest thing could just light a fire on TikTok or, wherever, like a great sync. Like sometimes your music can just like catch a spark where you're not even expecting it, and not even the plan. You could have the most brilliant marketing plan ever that doesn't work, and then something that like you would have never even thought, and it blows your song up. Like that kind of stuff we talk about all the time too. It's like you can be so good at the music industry and still not necessarily get a hit, and like get lucky with something you weren't even trying, and then it's like you can't even take credit for it, but it was so good, And so it's like it's just everything. It's kind of like a crapshoot. It's like everything is so weird these days. But like I think you still have to be tapped into the data for sure.
I feel like we work in a different music industry because in my experience, about 10 people would take the credit for the thing that happened without.
I always try to say, like, I honestly am like, we got lucky on that one. I don't know.
One of my favorite jokes about the industry is every time I'm on Twitter and people are like, oh, so-and-so is an industry plant. And I'm always like, if we could plant artists, what do you think we would be doing all day long?
I wish.
I would love to know how one plants an artist. That'd be great.
I know. It's so ridiculous. But it's also so sad. Like, it's so sad when you think you have the most perfect, brilliant plan too, and it like doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then like something just so random and it does it. And you're just like, oh, you can't plan that though. You can't think of it. It just happens.
That's what makes it special and stressful. Okay, I think this is a really good segue to a question like focus on like emerging artists and people that are working with artists right now. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see rising artists make to like try to develop their career? And like how would you recommend they kind of course correct? We started off talking a bit about like all the things that could go wrong. So Jen, let's continue and talk about like how to avoid some of these mistakes and what are the things that you see artists doing sometimes.
The one thing that I've seen and had a lot of experience with is just kind of like maybe more in the pop world, but it can probably be in any world. It's just like trying to copy paste like what you're seeing trending and what you're seeing hot. And it's like, that's not going to work. Like you can't be Tate McRae. You can't be Chopper. Like you have to be you. And I think that like a lot of artists will see what other artists that are successful have done and are doing, and then try to like emulate that. And it's a waste of time. It's just like, no, like you have to be authentic to you and do what makes you special. And like, yeah, I think everyone can kind of say there's a basic roadmap that everyone knows, but it's like at the same time within that map, your journey, your course, like your direction is your own. And like that comes from the artist too. I think like what I was saying before is like as managers, we like to work with artists. We're like, you're gonna make it with or without us. Like you are so special, you're so incredible. Like you don't even need a man, like you are going to make it. Like those are the types of artists that we like to find, like the gems, and those ones are just one of a kind, and they're original and authentic, and they just like want to, they have their vision, and it's cool and it's different. And I think that like that's kind of artists, like for all artists who are coming up, just like continue to like have your head down and like look within yourself. Don't look at what anybody else is doing. Don't look at how anybody else got to where they are. Like find your own path and carve your own way, and you will figure it out.
Absolutely love that. And I would add to that just to say that like don't let other people tell you who you're meant to be as well. The amount of meetings I had where it's like, oh, how do we replicate the Olivia Rodrigo moment? And I'm like, unless you're gonna put your artist on Disney, probably not right now. But it's that recognition that you know what's best for you as an artist is really important as well. Martha, what about you?
No, I mean that's absolutely true. The comparison, I mean, it's inevitable, but like it's terrible. It'll suck the soul out of an artist when they start comparing themselves to the person next to them. I mean, I think too specifically, I mean, this is like the oldest music industry advice ever to a new artist, but have an attorney look at your contracts. Because I have two that we take care of that have just been the deals that they were in with people. And it's always with people who don't even deserve to be in a deal with anybody, that put people in the worst deals. It's like I guess it's like con men, you know, there's some people that are talented and some people are con men. And so have somebody look at your deals And then the other thing that I've noticed too, because, you know, so many artists are young and are doing it themselves, and they get a hit, right? They pop a hit, however you want to define that, maybe on social media or streaming or wherever, but they get a hit and you have to have something to follow it up. I think that frequently what happens is people get so focused on this one track that they don't follow it up with subsequent music. And that's a big part of it too, is you can't just be defined by the one song that broke through for you on TikTok. You have to have other music to come and follow with that, so that you can show to your new huge fan base who you are as an artist, that you're not just defined by this one record. You're like a multifaceted artist that they can really like emotionally invest in, because you want fans investing in you, the artist, not your one song. Because eventually that's not enough to go see a headline show on, you know what I mean? So I do think it's making sure that if things start cooking, you have the music to follow it up with.
Yeah.
That's excellent advice. It's funny because we somehow retired the phrase "one hit wonder," but it happens so much more frequently now than it did when we first came up with the phrase "one hit wonder." And it's often no fault of anything but the artist not being ready yet for the next hit. So that's excellent advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper here. I want to talk a bit about some of the artists that you're working with. So Madden represents Bob Villain, and Neon Coast represents Kane Brown. So both these artists are navigating spaces that are probably causing them to face a lot of resistance, basically, working outside of their traditional genres. How have you supported them through industry pushback, and what are some like groundbreaking moments that you've experienced working with these artists? Jenn, you want to start?
Yeah. Well, for those of you who don't know about Bob Villain, they're a London-based duo. The music kind of fuses grime and punk. I think that for them, like, those genres historically are tied to working class rebellion. And it's also, like, unfortunately siloed by racial and cultural lines. And punk in particular has been coded as a white space despite like its Black origins. And so I think what's cool about Bob Villain is that they're breaking through in this space that not a lot of Black artists are traditionally in right now, like Kane. And their music's disruptive because it's like a raw confrontation of racism, police brutality, socioeconomic disparity, like politics between countries, just like all of those things. And they're not afraid to be politically they're not afraid to be pushing the boundaries in their performances as well as in their music. I think some problems that we've faced with them being like that is finding partners. Like, you know, it's labels aren't as apt to take a chance and partner with artists like that because it's not safe and it comes with controversy. And I think that scares a lot of the bigger companies. And so like what we did with them at MDDN was like leaned into their DIY ethos, and we were like, let's just start your own label, like what Martha and Kane did too. It was like, let's just start our own label and put your music out through there, and it worked.
I love that. That's the most punk rock thing you can do.
Yeah.
Martha, what about you? Your experience with Kane?
I mean, not dissimilar. When Kane started, we started working together. Certainly in 2016, like to be Black and singing country music, like it was just unbelievable the amount of resistance that we faced and the conversations that I had with people. And I remember talking to this one radio guy in Texas, like, because Kane was touring there. He had sold out some club or whatever. He had never had a song on radio, which terrestrial radio for country is still like it's still relevant, you know? And I don't know why I was even on the phone with this guy, but I was like, yeah, man, like he sold this out and it'd be great if like you could play a song. And he was like, I don't play rap music. And I was like, well, that's great because he's a country artist. And he was like, no, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Like we had this like crazy, like, and I was like, what are you talking about? Just go listen to his record. And he was like, I don't need to listen to his record. I've seen what he looks like. And that was that. So now fast forward 12 country radio number ones later, 2 diamond singles, like whatever. And so, but I think there was also like, so you're always going to have that. And it's a shame that we have that. But I think that it gave Kane and I in a weird way, like some freedom to go, who cares? And so then he started doing another thing that's sort of taboo in country is once you start having hits is to do things outside the genre. And so he had a big hit with Marshmello. He had a big hit with Sway Lee and Khalid. We had a big hit with Becky G. We had one with, and so we started experimenting all the while, like doing the country stuff too. And at that point, nobody could really say anything to us because eventually the fans start speaking and people show up to arenas and people show up to stadiums and people buy, stream your music. But it definitely at the beginning, early on, we were met with so much resistance, but it was almost so bad that we didn't care. That is so bad that it was like, okay, we don't have anything to lose. And we both sort of enjoyed, like me being a female manager in Nashville, him being a Black country artist. Like we were sort of like, please underestimate us because then that's like, then you're not ready. And then we came in and just have had and great success. But yeah, it's nuts the things that people said and and Jen, I don't know if you experienced this, but the things people said to me too as a manager, like I remember one label guy being like, you're one of the best female managers I've ever met. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's not, don't try to paint me into some weird little corner because it's uncomfortable for you to think that a female might actually be challenging to you as a male. It's just like, I don't know, all that stuff, you just have to kind of push through it, but it's hard,
Absolutely. Oh gosh, the stories that I'm sure many from all underrepresented backgrounds could tell about working in the music industry. That I think, first of all, Miles on It was my absolute jam last year. I have to first point that out.
I love that song. And the video is so good too. Monster jam.
God, what a hit. We are almost out of time, guys. I could ask like 1,000 more questions, so I'm really sad about this. I think a really good way to end it, and I think I'll take one audience question as well, but a good way to end it is talk about genres. So as Linda Martell famously said, genres are a funny little concept, aren't they? So let's talk about what the role of genre actually is in 2025. Martha, you started talking about it a bit when you're saying that, Kane's like, let's try everything. Like, what does that actually look like? Is genre important anymore? Like, how do you benchmark and categorize artists if we're not working within genre confines?
Yeah, genres have definitely started. I mean, genres are sort of just kind of like a loose, it's kind of like you have like your area code on your phone that you had like years ago, but you don't even live there anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like sort of a loose descriptor, I think, anymore. I think, there are still, whether it's terrestrial radio, honestly, the DSPs that really like their genres. It's really hard to like get that, I wish that those would loosen. I think those need to loosen up a bit because anybody's playlist that they listen to, whether it's me or my kids or whoever, it's got everything on it. It's got every type of music you can possibly consider, from top Sabrina Carpenter to the Hamilton to Kane Brown to whatever. It's like all over the map. And so I do think that it's a lazy way to assume what somebody does. It's just kind of lazy, in my opinion. But that said, I don't think the fans care. The fans don't care. I would love to do a tour sometime that was like multi-genre, because I do think tours still tend to tour in their genre. Country acts go out with country acts, pop acts go out with pop acts. I think it'd be really interesting. Like some of the bigger festivals are starting to push it, like Stagecoach, Like Kareem Leon was at Stagecoach. You know, he's a regional Mexican artist. Like some of the festivals are starting to do it. I think it'd be cool for a tour to go out that was a little bit kind of broke the genre boundaries down. But yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing the fans. It's already fallen away for the fans. So now it's just our industry that needs to catch up to how the fans are listening to music.
I think we've come like I feel like it like went backwards because I remember I'm a Warped Tour kid and I remember there was always like an Eminem on the stage or I remember going to the Fall Out Boy 50 Cent tour, like there was all kinds of stuff that we were doing and then we stopped. Like
yeah, we do need to do that.
Right? It's fun. That's a blast. Jenn, what are your thoughts about genre? How's it working in your world now?
Yeah, I know I was like, as Martha was talking, I was thinking of like Post and Beyonce and how they were able to very successfully cross over into the country space. But I think that like even for them, it's hard at first. And it's like, because I'll say for radio too, like my experience is with like the straight down the middle pop artists, and it's like if they're used to taking like this artist's big dance hit to top 40 straight out the gate, and then like they want to do another album and it's still like the pop top 40 songs that you hear, but it's not like the big dance hits that they were used to from the last album. It's a fight to get them to put it to radio out the gate. Like if it was like another dance hit, it would be like, fine, like here's the plan, we're going, like we're servicing it the first week out. If it's different, they're like, no. It's like, even if you're huge, there's still like, you go back to the wait and see plan. You go back to the like, wait, let's see if we catch a moment. Like, what's the story? What's this? And it's like, this artist is huge. Just because they're trying to do something different and it's a great song and you all know it, but it's like different, you're pushing back. And that happens still today. And I think that's really weird. And I think that then they're like, okay, but like, what's the next song? Like, yeah, this one's great, but like, is the next one like that dance hit, like the one you had before? It's like, it's really annoying. Yeah. So I think with that kind of thing, genres, even like within one genre, there's like subgenres in it that is hard to break out of, like as far as promo goes. Definitely.
I love the inside scoop of the lingo that you hear all the time at work of what is the story and what's the next hit as I feel like I have like PTSD from like marketing meetings of just like
Rachel always wants to know the story.
It's always radio. I'm like, okay, we actually don't have time for audience questions. I'm so sorry, guys. But this has been a wonderful conversation. I could do this for like another hour. This was great. Jenn, Martha, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your perspective. This was really fun.
It was amazing.
So much.
Yeah.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's lots of our programming for the day. I hope you enjoyed it all. I had a blast. I'm glad I finally got to moderate a panel for this year. I'm going to keep this wrap up quick. I'm not even doing a whole new session for it, so we're going to wrap this up quick. So I hope you learned something new and made some new connections today. My favorite quote by far, well, other than Liam talking about his involvement in inadvertently marketing porn, was Bree saying we need to reclaim success from capitalism. As someone that runs a free conference that I don't take any profit from, I absolutely agree with this. And I'm so glad to surround myself with other people that feel the same. So with that, I'm just going to wrap this all up. Tomorrow, we'll be bringing back our music and research panel with speakers talking about stats about country music, which is really exciting to segue over to that. We'll also be talking about the toll of being a musician on mental health, and Chartmetric is bringing back talk around trigger cities. Then you're going to hear from me, actually. So for the first time, to celebrate 5 years, I'll be keynoting my own conference and talking about, well, I guess I'll be talking about how we all of us got here, basically. And then, of course, we'll have our project presentations for our hackathon participants are frantically working right now in the background to piece together for you guys to all see tomorrow. And then we'll follow it up with a virtual after party. So that's it for tomorrow. Back to today. For spectators, we're launching speed networking right after I finish talking to you. So you can meet and interact with other spectators, attendees, speakers, and anyone else that's involved in my shared music. You'll meet people at random in just 5-minute intervals. The 5 minutes goes fast, as what everyone says. Participants will have another Q&A session tonight to answer any of your questions about the project. So this time I'll wrap up in time for you to join speed networking, so you have a bit of a break and a bit of a reprieve. So that wraps up content for day 2. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you all in networking. Participants, hang out. We're going to do another Q&A, so check Slack for your Zoom link, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Bye.